The Baltimore Orioles are unable to come up with a sweep of the Tampa Bay Rays as they drop the series finale 4-3 in one of the more frustrating games you'll see as an Oriole fan. Welcome to the Ryan Ripken Show. I am not Ryan Ripken. That's not Ryan Ripken either. I'm trying to point the right way, but I messed that up. That's Kevin Ostreicher. We do post-game reactions, lives every single day, win or lose. So obviously, we've done 10 of these now, and I think we're 8-2 now. We're officially 8-2. We got a little cocky yesterday saying 8-1. We were like, we can't lose. Now here we are losing.
You know, I think I've figured out the formula. We can't talk about the record. We just have to know in our minds that we have a streak. It's gone well since we've started these post-game shows, but the two times that we've talked about, oh, hey, the post-game shows are the reason why the Orioles are doing so good. They lose the next day. So we're done. We're done talking about it. If you and me and everybody listening, we know this is a reason, the only reason why the Orioles are playing well. It's just because of Zach and I doing this show. But yeah, it was a pretty horrible, terrible day for the most part. I mean, if I'm just going to jump into 1 up, 1 down, I'll say 2 up for me. Gunnar Henderson reaches base in every single at bat. I mean, that to me, you squander that, but then the Orioles won the series. I mean, they should have swept, but they didn't play enough to sweep. So it's unfortunate, but there's a lot more 1 down than there is 1 up today. So I thought we should maybe give a little light on who actually performed well, which was Gunnar Henderson and also Cole Irvin. And then, boy, do we have a lot to talk about in terms of some honest conversations about this team.
Yeah. When you have 15 hits, you should win ball games. When your starter goes 6 1/3, 2 earned runs, you should win ball games. The Orioles had both of those today and were unable to get the win. And it was just infuriating and so frustrating because it felt like at every time there were guys on base, they had traffic going, but they were unable to get anything else after I'm looking now after, why am I blanking? After the 4th inning. So it was another thing like yesterday. The Orioles get to the starter early, and then the Tampa Bay Rays bring in the bullpen, and it was over. The Orioles were unable to get any runs in. Obviously, we're all going to go back to the big situation, bases loaded, 1 out, bottom of the 8th with Ryan Mountcastle up. That happens. Like I see people upset saying Ryan Mountcastle is one of the hottest hitters on the planet right now. And when he's as hot as he is, he just makes things happen. He obviously had already gotten a hit today. You accept that. Like, you take that situation 10 out of 10 times, and it probably took I would say 8 out of 10 times that situation works out for you, whether if it's a fly ball, a hit, something. Usually Ryan Mountcastle gets that run in. It just sucks that they were unable to do it with such a big situation and a big moment of the game.
Yeah, I mean, based off how all the Orioles hitters are playing right now, who else would you rather have up in that situation? Gunnar, Jordan Westburg, and Ryan Mountcastle. You could throw Adley in that conversation too if you wanted to. But Mountcastle, he's one of the guys one up in that situation. And we were on here singing his praises yesterday for a 2-homer game. And, well, look, the result was not what you wanted. It was a disaster. I'm not shying away from that fact. But that at-bat was just an encapsulation of Baltimore all day. They left double-digit runners on. It was they had 13 hits, if I'm not mistaken, or they left 13 on. Multiple walks. Urias gets hit by a pitch. I mean, they left so many guys on base today. And that, Zach, you and I have been talking about it really ever since we started doing this, and even dating back further to just on the streams with everybody. This offense is so good, but it's so inconsistent. And with Gunnar, he hits the leadoff homer. And that's another solo shot, which, again, Gunnar's really comfortable in that leadoff spot. Like, it just feels like he's settled in there. And actually, back-to-back Utah Street days for the Baltimore Orioles. Anthony Santander.
Yeah, weird, because Honestly, I was surprised yesterday was the first one of the season. I felt like a few guys had gotten a hold of them. But yeah, first one of the season yesterday, then back-to-back today, obviously. But you hit the nail on the head. It's the inconsistency. It's you get 15 hits, you leave 13 guys on base, and you're like, how does this team, even when we keep saying need to get the on-base percentage up, you need to get the on-base percentage up and get guys in. The on-base percentage was through the roof today. Everyone was getting on base. No one was getting in, and that's what really sucked.
Yeah, so 15 hits, my mistake on the Orioles for the day. But still, it's just we've seen them have games where they live up to their full potential. When you have a guy in Cole Irvin, and we'll talk about the pitching staff more in depth, but when you have a pitcher in Cole Irvin who, again, gives up 8 hits but only 2 runs, when you have a starting pitcher that goes out there and is only charged 2 runs in a game. And even if you want to take it a step further, 4 runs with this Orioles offense should not be as insurmountable as it feels for them right now, where it just feels like the offense can be so inconsistent at times. We know they have a bunch of good hitters. We know their offense is good, but it just feels like once an opposing team, the Orioles have notoriously started slow is, I don't know if slow is the right word I want to use, because obviously Gunnar just moonshots that ball out of there.
Yeah.
Like pretty fast start, right? But it seems like in the earlier portions of the game, they're not able to string a bunch of runs together. And then when a team is able to put together 3-4 runs, which again should not be insurmountable, it just feels like for the Orioles, it's like, are they going to get on track? And it felt like in that 8th inning, all right, they get the bases loaded, 1 out. This is exactly where the Orioles want them. And this was one of the, I'd say, decently rare times they were not able to be the cardiac comeback kids. And you still win the series, but you can't secure the sweep. And I know we're going to get into some of just, again, it just felt like such a weird game from the start. I mean, Gunnar Henderson homer is always fun at the beginning of the game, and the way he hit that ball, but it just felt like that was really the only, like, okay, we're here. And then it just felt like for the most part, they disappeared for the rest of the game.
Yeah, because even the hits, it felt like so many hits were with 2 outs, nobody on. And then it would be a single here. And you're like, it almost like I kept looking down and it'd be like, oh, they're at 9 hits, they're at 11 hits, at 12 hits, at 15 hits. And I'm like, how have we gotten this many hits? What feels like we're never on. And that's not even counting how many walks did we end up having? Actually, it was just Gunners too. So 17 guys on base. You need to win that ball game, especially when the other team is only putting up 4 runs. So it was one of those. And you want to talk about a weird game. I guess let's get into this a little bit. It doesn't get much weirder than you have one of your hottest players have to exit a game because he gets hit in the head with a bat in the on-deck circle. Like that's not something you can plan for. And it did put the Orioles at a weird disadvantage. And you even saw when Ramon Urias got hit in the foot, they were wondering if he had to get taken out. And even the commentators were like, the Orioles don't have any more like middle infielders that they can just toss into this situation. They're going to have to put someone who's not comfortable in the infield. You'd probably have to move Mountcastle back to third base, which I'm not sure the last time Ryan Mountcastle played third base, it had to be AAA.
Yeah.
It would have been interesting, but to lose a guy like that, especially with how well he's playing, one, you just hate it for Jorge because he's firing on all cylinders right now. He's really pushing through, having another breakout performance. And then it's like, wow, like what are we going to do? All reports right now say he is in concussion protocol, but Mullins said in his press conference they saw him in the kitchen and seems to be doing well. So you just hope that that's not something that lingers, and hopefully it can be resolved in the next day or two. Maybe it's not a concussion, which is probably it is the best case scenario. But then if it is long-term, Kevin, we have to start talking about what move gets made if Jorge Matteo can't be, on the team over the next 10 days. Is it a Connor Norby? Is it a Jackson Holiday who's at a 10-game hit streak now in AAA? Yeah. Like it opens up a lot of questions if Jorge Matteo has to miss time.
It does. And these comparisons, it never actually goes this way. Like obviously circumstances and players, whoever's in it result in a different result, but you have Urias get hit by that pitch and then he doesn't get sent home. He doesn't go home. And if it was Matteo who was on base in that situation, Matteo scores literally like before the ball probably gets back to the infield, right? Like speed. He's a speed demon. So it's how the cookie crumbles, I guess. It was a very unfortunate crumble for the Orioles today, but it's a freak accident that maybe, you know, if it was Matteo on base, and again, who knows how it goes with Matteo still in the game. It's different with the Urias versus Matteo, but if you just 1-for-1, don't take any other factor, replace Urias with Matteo in that situation, we're talking about a 4-4 ball game, and maybe we're talking about a win. But again, it's still circumstantial. I mean, I don't want to hang, you know, everything on that. In terms of the other part of the conversation, though, it really is. It's if Matteo has to miss time, if he has to go on the IL, it's going to become a situation of, are you going to call up Connor Norby? Or are you going to call up Jackson Holiday? I've seen a couple people calling for Vavra in this situation as well. I would probably lean more towards Norby, if anything, in that situation. But the thing that we've been kind of preaching with Jackson Holiday, Zach, is if he comes up, one, he has to be playing every day. So if Mateo's on the IL, I would assume that he would be playing every day. But two, it's just different because when Matteo comes back up, I think you would have to keep Jackson on the roster. But when Matteo comes back, he's not going to be playing every day. And so to me, it just feels like this is a better Norby spot, in my opinion. I'm not saying that Jackson hasn't necessarily over these past 10 games been great, because he has down in AAA, but it just feels like circumstantially, if you bring Jackson up and then you send him back down immediately, or you send him up and you keep him on the bench for 4 or 5 days out of the week, it just doesn't feel like that's how they should be utilizing Jackson. I'm a big Jackson guy. I think Jackson's going to be awesome. I think he's found his groove again at AAA, but I feel like for me, Norby would be the answer if Matteo has to miss time, because I just think with the circumstances, it is better. And then once you're ready to bring up Jackson in a more long-term everyday situation, that's when you make that decision. So that's me, Zach. But what about you?
I mean, I feel like this is like the 3rd or 4th time this year I've said it. If not now, when? For Connor Norby. Like, what else does the guy have to do? He sits there and he's gotten, I don't have the stats in front of me, but he has over 1,000 at bats in AAA. Like, he literally, there's nothing else for him to prove there. It relies solely on, do the Orioles want to bring him up and not play him and maybe hurt trade value, stuff like that. But Connor Norby's one of those guys. I'll say this, I don't think we see Connor Norby in Baltimore. And partially I'm saying that because I said that about Kyle Stowers, and then like 2 days later he got called up, and I kind of want to see Connor Norby here. But I would bring up Connor Norby if that's a situation. And like you said, you don't want Matteo to just miss 10 days and you bring up Holiday for 10 days. And then you're like, well, thanks, Holiday. Like, you're sent back down, like, all, you know, thanks for your service for the past few weeks, but we're going back to Jorge because of how well Jorge's playing. Then on the flip side, you have a guy like Connor Norby who has nothing to prove in AAA. Can you not just see what you have there? You know, it's like one of those things where people have been calling for him for so long, where it's like, what left? You know, what's it hurt to see Connor Norby for 10 days? It feels like a Connor Norby call up, but at the same time, I think the guy, if I had to put money on it, it's Taron Vavra. It fits it too well. And let me double check real quick. Oh, actually, Vavra's not on the 40-man. So maybe Vavra's not. I was going to say Vavra solely because if he's on the 40-man, seems like the easier. Maybe Norby does get the call. That would be fun. Get Connor Norby up here to sit on the bench for 6 straight days and drive Orioles Twitter nuts.
I mean, it's almost the same.
You know it would happen. Oh,
I mean,
we'd call Norby up and he would be on the bench for the first 5 games, and people would be upset.
Yep. I mean, it's like clockwork, essentially, it feels like. But I also feel like it would be kind of the situation with this, like, who would you feel more comfortable sitting on the bench, right? We had the conversation with Stowers versus Heston, and who's more ready for that role. If you have the conversation with Jackson versus Norby, Jackson's role should not be to sit on the bench. It just shouldn't be. You want to get him as many at-bats as you can, especially down in AAA. I think Norby just fits the bill better. And then if you have to send him down in 10 days, okay. I think it just fits better for what the Orioles would need, because once Matteo comes back, we know he's claiming that spot again, right? Yeah. Jackson, the best case for Jackson would be it's some sort of a split platoon, but even you don't want to be doing that, in my opinion. Like, you want Jackson to be your everyday guy when the time is right. I wouldn't rush this thing. I just call up Norby and call today.
Yeah, and I'm seeing a few people talk about the 40-man roster spots. Yeah, so the Orioles, I believe right now, are at 38 guys. So they can just add Norby to the roster without making any moves because of Wells and Means going back down. I was more saying if Vavra was already on the 40-man roster, I think they would go with him solely because adding Norby then to the 40-man makes it harder to maneuver guys as they DFA and maneuver throughout the year. But yeah, if we're picking a guy that I want up, it's going to be Norby because, like we've said, you don't want Jackson Holiday coming up for just a tiny amount of time. And then I guess it's a good, bad situation. What if Jackson comes up here and just starts lighting it on fire? Then, you're like, well, sorry, Jorge. So it's a tough decision. I think they go Norby.
Yeah, I do too. And then Reds, you want to talk about setting Orioles Twitter on fire? Zach, what about this?
Oh, Nick Mayton. That's the one. You know what? That just screams Orioles. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, so, okay. So final predictions. I think it'll be Norby if Matteo has to miss time. Do you think it's Norby too, or do you think it could be Jackson? Mate, where are you going?
For what?
For your final prediction.
I'm going to go. Okay, final prediction. I want to go Norby so badly, but my heart just tells me deep down that he's not an option. I'm going to go Taron Vavra. I'm going to stick with that. I'm going to stick with Vavra.
They do have the 240-mans open.
He's also Vavra, man. He's also hitting so well down there, and he just fits what the Orioles love so much. He plays in the outfield. He plays every single position on the infield. He seems like he's the guy.
Well, let me raise you this then. If it is not Norby for this, is it unquestionably he gets traded at the deadline?
I think it's unquestionably he gets traded at the deadline, even if he is called up. I just don't see, unfortunately, for Connor Norby. Connor Norby should be on 20, 25 major league rosters. Like, if anything, on the bench in a utility role. Like, that's how good he is. He is an incredible prospect. But he's just at a logjam position at the Orioles, and someone's going to see value in him and be like, we got to go get this guy.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it essentially is the Joey Ortiz conundrum that you have, right? It's a great problem to have. Great prospects, you will take 10 out of 10. You'll take that, but it's just a matter of there are only so many spots on the diamond, only so many spots in the lineup. And they made a decision to go with Jordan Westburg over Joey Ortiz, which we can all agree that was the right decision. But it just means
and Joey Ortiz is having a hell of a but it's one of those things where would I rather have Joey Ortiz and Jordan Westburg platooning or Jordan Westburg starting and Corbin Burns? I'm gonna take Corbin. Yeah. So that's one of those that I will say. You got to give the Brewers credit. Right now, it's looking like a real win-win trade for both sides. So, I love me some Joey Ortiz, but definitely I think the Orioles are very happy with their decision to keep Jordan Westburg.
Yeah, I think if I'm not mistaken, Joey Ortiz leads all rookies in WAR so far. I think he's around 1.9. So, look, win for both clubs. It helps also that it was not only not an interdivision trade, but not an interconference trade. So, NL, AL, both teams win. All right, you can sign me up for that. I do want to get to this from Joe. Joe, I saw I messaged Joe this on Instagram. Joe gave us a donation at the very end of last night's stream, and I didn't see it. He wanted us to do a hog call, and Arkansas season is now over. So I think he honestly blames us, or me in particular, for that. So I want to apologize.
Arkansas season's over.
So I want to apologize to Joe for that, and we'll give one more Woo Pig Suey to end the year right now, and then we'll get into more Orioles talk. So brief intermission. You ready, Zach? We got to get it 100% right this time. That's on me, but we're going to do it. Ready?
All right. Yeah.
All right.
Woo Pig Suey. Woo, pig suey. I gotta like it. Woo, pig suey. Razorback.
Razorbacks.
I'm so sorry, Joe. I know I thought that this was honestly like their year. I really did, Joe. I'm so sorry. They were number one for so long.
Mm. So just I wanted to make sure we hit that because yeah, I'm sorry, Joe. It's unfortunate. We're all going through it. Orioles, Arkansas, Nuggets a couple weeks ago. So it's been a time. Yeah. Now, I think we have to talk about the bullpen a little, Zach. We'll talk about Cole Irvin after this conversation. I mean, it honestly, I guess it goes hand in hand. So we don't have to exclude Cole from the conversation. But despite how inconsistent and not great the offense was today outside of Gunnar, you have the bullpen, which again, Cole Irvin gives you 2-run ball. That should be enough in its own right to win you a game. The bullpen only gives up 2 runs, but when your offense only scores 3, that is the difference in the game. Dylan Tate comes in and had a very long leash in this one, very long runway. Gives up a 2-run double, I think, as Danny Coulomb was warming, if I'm not mistaken. He was warming up to come in the game. 3 straight hits, if I'm not mistaken, given up by Dylan Tate. We've talked about this for a while, Zach, in terms of problem versus solution. This was actually your line. I've kind of stolen it, though, so sorry. But essentially, what Zach said was there are guys in this bullpen who need to be solutions, and we're kind of wondering, all right, who are the solutions going to be in the Orioles bullpen? Yeah. But there have been a lot of guys who at times have been the problem. And there have been plenty. I mean, look, Dylan Tate was a solution just a couple games ago. Last weekend, we were talking about Dylan Tate coming and having his stuff. He was the problem in the bullpen today. And again, when your offense can't put up enough runs, you say, all right, 2 runs from the bullpen, not a big deal. But it ended up being what lost them the game. And it wasn't the only thing. There were multiple tiers of what lost them this game today. I'm not going to pin it all on one area of the team or one guy. But it just felt like Tate should have been out before he was. And it ended up being too little too late by the time Danny Coulomb came in.
Yeah. Dylan Tate's outing was I'm not sure why he came out in the 7th. I understand why he came out in the 7th. The Orioles during this stretch, they need to rest their bullpen as much as possible. You know, we're now in the stretch if they have 1 off day for the rest of June. For all of June, they have 1 off day. So I understand why they're trying to conserve guys as Kevin left. So I understand why they have to kind of rest guys, and they're trying to extend guys a little bit more in their out of their comfort zone, maybe pushing an extra batter or 2 to try to save extra guys from having to come in. But it didn't work out with Dylan Tate. And today is just, I'm not going to blame Hyde because I think it's one of those unavoidable things. The bullpen is gassed. They've had 1 off day over the past 17 days or something. So the bullpen's tired. Obviously, Cole Irvin. Hyder. I think so too. I don't think Brandon Hyde was sitting there watching Dylan Tate going, oh, this is good. He's going to get out of it. I think they were sitting there hoping he'd get out of it, but knowing they needed to at least try to let him do it before the damage was done. Obviously, that didn't happen, and Danny Coulomb comes in once it's kind of a little too late. But overall, 30 games in 31 days right now. So it's just a brutal stretch for the bullpen. And Kevin, we're just talking a little bit about how I understand why Hyde kept in Tate, because you want to help rest other guys in the bullpen. But I don't think it was – I think it was the wrong decision. And I think after the first hit, he should have come out. After the second hit, he should have come out. And then after the third hit, it was too late. So it is one of those. That's just – can you blame Hyde? I don't. I think Hyde didn't exactly want to exhaust Tate the way he did. But Dylan Tate's looked awesome in his past outings. Like you said, Kevin, he was a solution for a few games for the bullpen, looking like we've even talked about on here, potentially 8th, 9th inning guy. that sucks. Those guys, that's going to happen, but it's just the consistency, what we're talking about. And that's the biggest issue for the Orioles. So what they have to figure out is, who is the consistency? Where is it? Who can be those consistent guys? We talk about the circle of trust. It feels like the Orioles bullpen circle of trust changes daily. It feels like one guy's in it for a week and then he's out of it for 2 weeks. And then another guy who wasn't in it for 3 weeks comes into it for 2 weeks. It's just a revolving door of who do you trust in the Orioles bullpen?
Yeah, to add to your point, I think after the first hit, Hyde should have been walking out there. The second hit, he should have been running out there. And then the final one, he should have sprinted, which, I guess at the end of the day he did.
Yeah.
But to me, this bullpen was so taxed after these last 2 games, even dating back prior to the series. This bullpen, we've talked about the usage all year. Even guys who aren't on the team anymore, Mike Baumann being a guy who we talked about a ton at the beginning of the season about how much he was being used and how it might have been impacting performance. But you have Albert Suarez go 5 innings on Friday, and you have to get through 4 innings of bullpen ball. Then Kyle Bradish has a rough outing yesterday, and he goes 2 2/3. You have to use your bullpen for almost 7 innings of that game. So guys were gassed. I see Red saying that Cano and Webb on back-to-back days have pitched a ton already. You, Zach, I know you're the guru of the bullpen rest chart. Not a lot of guys were rested when it came to today. So it's like, right, who else do you have? But here's the other thing. Thiago Vieira is somebody that I don't think the Orioles trust right now. They're trying to figure him out, right? Seeing, okay, how can we get your stuff to be where we know that you can control it? The stuff is there, but they're essentially operating a man down in that bullpen for the most part right now, because he came in and that it was 11-0 and gave up, I can't even remember, 3-4 runs and not even an out recorded. So usually in a situation, you'd have one extra guy, but if they brought in Thiago Vieira in that situation, maybe, miraculously he gets out of that, but the Orioles can't trust him in that situation yet. So it's like, who's rested? Yes, Dylan Tate should have been pulled earlier, right? I think we can all agree on that. But this bullpen is so taxed. And where's the comment quickly here? I can't remember who. Here we go. Michael, we are now in June. We are in the month that we had talked about for so long leading up to the season. 30 games. It's one off day the entire month.
Yeah.
So they're going to have to find a way to manage this bullpen, whether it's matchup based, rest based. There's a lot that Brandon Hyde's going to have to do to make sure that these guys don't get burned out, taxed out, because there's still a lot of baseball left here. And to me, it just feels like everybody in that bullpen is tired. Everybody in every MLB bullpen is tired. It's not just an Orioles thing.
And I wanted to bring up Rob's point because it's exactly that.
Yes.
People complain about the Orioles bullpen of, hey, we don't have enough guys that we trust. We don't have, we need more bullpen help. Every team in Major League Baseball needs more bullpen help. Every single fan base, I can tell you, there are maybe 1 or 2 fan bases out there who are comfortable with their bullpen right now. And that'll probably change in 2 weeks. It is always changing for the bullpen. It sucks because it's such a high leverage position. So it's always under a microscope. So the second one thing goes wrong, like today, 1 bad inning, it was just 1 inning. And all of a sudden we're sitting here and I saw it. I think Rick put it up here. He says 1 timely hit and we're talking about a sweep. If the Orioles, if Mountcastle gets that double, hits a double, let's say with bases loaded, bottom 8, we're sitting here going, hey, bullpen, gave up some runs, but they did enough to get it done, and that's why we trust them. But the offense didn't come through, so now we're sitting here going, is the bullpen okay? It's just how the narrative changes around the bullpen. The bullpen can give up 1 run, 2 runs, and it can be the biggest 2 runs in the world or useless runs, and depending on that is how people kind of decide whether or not they trust these guys.
Yeah, or literally, as I said, they were 1 Jorge Matteo on base away from this at least being a tie game. And as Rick said, Mountcastle, even just singles, you probably score 2 in that. You'd hope at least you score 2 in that situation. Now, another thing that Michael says about the bullpen is the Orioles were counting on Tyler Wells to get back healthy and come back to the bullpen. And I think this is where we're starting to see some of the ripple effects of not only the Wells injury, but John Means as well, where you would have the luxury of maybe if Means was able to be back there and in that rotation and healthy, if you wanted to not go the 6-man rotation route when everybody's back, Kramer, of course, is another one where they have to use so many of these guys right now in the starting rotation, which is fine, right? Cole Irvin is a starter, fine. Suarez is a starter, fine. But if you have your guys available, you can move some of those options of the bullpen. We've seen Albert Suarez in that role. Irvin has been there. So it's a conversation now of there are so many guys. And Michael's bringing up all the points today. Look at this. 3 guys in the bullpen right now with options. And so when you're trying to figure out where you go in-house, who's the guy that gets left out in that situation, right? Who's the guy that maybe gets DFA'd in that situation? Do you take that risk? With Bauman, I think everybody knew once they DFA'd him, he was not coming back to Baltimore because of how hot of a commodity he would be. So, exactly. Hoko saying Irvin would have been in that game yesterday with Bradish pulled. It's exactly where the injuries, it's not just they lost John Means, they lost Tyler Wells. That's a big storyline. But the other storyline is now it's step up time. Guys have to go up a ring on the ladder, and that's exactly what the conversation has to become now.
Yeah, it does. It's another. It just adds to the chaoticness of what we always talk about, where we're like, I would hate to have Mike Elias's job. Mike Elias right now, he's got like 7 guys that can be starters, but he's got to put some in the bullpen, and then guys go down. So now you're losing 2 of your best long relievers who, like Coco Dad said, probably yesterday, Irvin comes in and gives you 4 innings. We're not even talking about a tired bullpen. We're talking about how rested the bullpen is. So it completely changes everything as these injuries go down. It changes not just the starting rotation, it changes the bullpen, and it changes multiple days because yesterday Irvin comes in, shuts them down, whatever. Today we have a completely rested bullpen. Maybe different guys come in, maybe they go get the win. So it's just one of those things that you see one guy going down at such a kind of a swing position as the Orioles have been using them in these, we have starters that also can be relievers. You're now forcing them from being these like secret weapons of they can do both to, now we need you to actually start. And it's not out of, this is what's best. It's we actually need a starter.
Right. So just for some reference, Reds, thank you for this. For those who are wondering who the guys with options are, Tate, Aiken, and Cano are the guys all with options at this point. They're 3. So that moves into the other conversations, Zach. And again, it's like clockwork. We go live on the Ryan Ripken show. We talk about trades, particularly bullpen trades. But I think it's even more relevant today and even after losses where it's like, what do you do? It's kind of us regurgitating the same thing over and over again. I don't think one loss changes what our opinions are. Our opinions, by the way, are that they should make a trade in the bullpen, right? I don't know that it's going to be tomorrow. I don't know that it's going to be in a week. I don't know that it's going to be in 3 weeks. I think as we get closer to the trade deadline, the Orioles will have a better idea of what their options are. They will have probably brought up maybe a guy or 2 to see. Maybe we'll definitely probably have an answer on Thiago Vieira at that point. And then they can evaluate and say, hey, is this going to be a guy that we need to be in high leverage situations? This is a middle reliever that we need to go out there and get. Ryan's timeline has always been end of June. And I think that I would be shocked if they made a deal before the end of June, but I wouldn't be shocked to see maybe 1 or 2 more flyers on guys DFA'd if they need, especially if injuries continue to be an issue like this.
Yeah, and we talk about the inside in-house guys. I always bring up Matt Crook. I think he honestly has an opportunity to come up here soon, but maybe they get bullpen help in the form of, I'm seeing a lot of people talk about it, Cade Povich. And it would be an unconventional way to get bullpen help because in theory, you're bringing up Cade Povich so you can move Suarez and Irvin back into that bullpen. So there's a lot of different ways that I think they're going to try to figure this out and get more stability in the bullpen in-house. And they're going to go over every option. And at the end of the day, mid-July, early July, obviously late July is the trade deadline. So, but I think that really early July up to mid-July is where you're going to start to see the rumors really pick up of the Orioles are making phone calls. They're all in. They're going to get a reliever. And I think they do end up getting a high leverage reliever. The Orioles aren't getting Mason Miller. I know everyone's going to want to say that, but I see no reason why the Athletics trade Mason Miller. That's just me personally. I just don't see it happening. But a guy like Ryan Helsley, who we just saw with St. Louis, guys like that, I think are more of an option at this point. I think will be on the trade block and options for the Orioles going forward. But like we've said a million times, Kevin, these conversations don't start. Yeah. And talk about a guy pitching in Colorado. If you're doing well in Colorado, that's even better. That's the icing on top, because that is the worst place to ever pitch in. But I think it's going to be a lot of guys coming in-house. The Brian Bakers, I know everyone gets kind of like cringes when I say Brian Baker in the chat every time. Yes, I think Brian Baker may get another chance here. I'm sorry, everyone, but this is what they do. I'm going through the I don't think Chase McDermott comes up. Obviously, you have guys like Nick Vespi, who has frequent flyer miles so high because of how many times he gets sent up and down. Yeah. There are just so many options. I think they see what they have still, and they're going to try that, because Michael Eis hates giving up assets. He's not going to give up assets if he doesn't think he needs to. So he's going to see what they need specifically, so that hopefully they can build on a specific spot, instead of being like, okay, we're just going to try to go get bullpen guys and see what happens.
Right. And again, I think once Kramer comes back, it will change part of the equation as well. But I like the points you made it and everybody else did, Zach, about unconventional way to get bullpen help. Go bring another starter up and move one of these guys back to the bullpen who can be pretty locked down. I think what do you think that, Zach? They'd move Suarez before Irvin back to the bullpen?
I don't know. It's
a tough call.
Yeah. I think honestly I could see them being on almost like a platoon type. Like, okay, they're facing a team that has a lot of lefties, you go Irvin. If you got a team that has mostly righties, you go Suarez. But I think those two are interchangeable right now. I personally, and I'm a massive Cole Irvin truther, I really like Cole Irvin out of the pen. I don't know what it is, but like his ability to just come in and give you like 5 innings of just shut down ball if a pitcher gets out early. But the downside is he gives you performances like today where you should win, because he goes 6 1/3, 2 runs. So it's a good situation. It's not a great situation to be in, but there's a lot of talented arms right now that you're trying to see who can fit where. And, I think this, obviously we've said his name a bunch, but Povich will get his shot. I think this all but secures it, but I think they're going to try in-house and then they'll go from there.
I think that, look, the consensus, I think we're both in agreement on this, Zach, is they can't just sit by and do nothing here. I think it's at a point where, again, I don't mean trade, but just try to get some different options up. We don't know when Kramer's going to be back exactly, but I do think that will help. But at the end of the day, I think a question, and we can play a mini game here to wrap up the negative part of this, is what concerns you more? If you're watching live with us, you can put it down in the chat. If you're watching after, you can put it in the comments. What concerns you more, short-term and long-term? So 2 things, short-term and long-term. Is it the Orioles offense, the inconsistencies, or is it the Orioles bullpen, the inconsistencies, both short-term and long-term? For me, I mean, I think recently we've seen the offense be... They've been great in spots, but it's just been the word we keep coming back to is inconsistent. I have more hope that the Orioles offense will figure it out long term. I just think there are too many good bats in that lineup to where they won't. But I think short term, I just want to see them put together more. I think the at-bats have been fine in a sense. I know that there were some first pitch swings late. I know Tony popped out on that first pitch of the 9th, and a lot of people are... I don't think it's right to criticize Ryan for hitting that first pitch. I mean, I get it, but he's been playing so well that I'll give him a pass for it. But at the end of the day, I do think that you can't swing at first pitches every single at bat. They're not doing. But I think if there was one overall general point that I'm more concerned about, I think the bullpen is what concerns me more, just because of the fact that I think there's just more talent on the Orioles offense, and I trust the Orioles offense to figure it out more than I do the bullpen. Doesn't mean they both can't figure it out. Doesn't mean they both will figure it out. But the potential of the Orioles offense, I just think, is bigger right now than the bullpen.
Yeah, I'm not. Long-term is going to be bullpen. Short-term's offense. And I'm not even really concerned about the offense. It's annoying. I would like for them to improve, but there's, like you said, there's so much talent. There's so much talent on this offense, and there's so much that can continue to come up. I still think Jackson Holliday is going to be a star. I still think Heston Kjerstad's going to contribute to this team. The bullpen's where it's like, okay, I've seen teams lose in the playoffs because of the bullpen. We saw, and I know people aren't going to like this, we saw the Phillies last year, and unfortunately, a lot of it due to Craig Kimbrell. The Phillies bullpen potentially cost them a World Series. And that's not a situation I want to find the Orioles in, because it's the most infuriating way to lose baseball games when your offense is doing everything and putting up runs and giving you a lead, and then your bullpen goes and blows it. So long-term, it's clearly a bullpen to me. Short-term, I'm not totally concerned with the offense. So I'll go short and long-term, or just both the bullpen.
Which makes sense. And I see, we have a lot of responses about having it be short-term bullpen, long-term offense. And then we have the opposite side, short-term bats, long-term bullpen. And I think overall, most of the responses, Red saying the bullpen, now Hokodad saying the offensive inconsistency in the postseason, and even Casey short-term bullpen gassing out completely, which is a valid point. I think short-term, the bullpen has been gassed pretty much from the start of the season. So that's a good point. But the offensive consistency, and she says first pitch swings, leaving bases loaded. And also Richie saying bottom of the order, too many inexperienced players, and BP isn't great. Starters other than Burns haven't been great either. I would disagree with the starters other than Burns haven't been great. I think that for the most part, the starters outside of Burns, sure, there'll be an outing like Bradish had yesterday, which is fine. We can admit that wasn't great. But I think the starters have been pretty consistent for most of the season. It's just those starts are getting – and even we saw it early in the season with Burns, didn't we, Zach, where they weren't getting him run support. And it's like, okay, well, if you lose the game with Burns on the bump or you win by a run, it's like, oh, Burns really wasn't. People are saying, oh, well, Burns wasn't that dominant. Then you look at the stat line and you're like, oh, like it just doesn't look that way because the game was 3-2 or something. And so everybody's so hyper fixated on the offense. I've been pretty impressed with the starting rotation.
It's hard to go 6-7 innings and give up 2 or less runs each time. And that's what most of these guys have been doing. Obviously, yesterday was kind of an outlier for Bradish so far from what we've seen. We saw Grayson give up 4 runs where the Orioles still won, and he went 6 innings, and he honestly looked good. It was some fluke things go through. You're going to happen. The starting rotation doesn't worry me at all. It's just – especially when you get those top 3. If those top 3, the biggest thing is those top 3. If you can go to the playoffs and you are throwing out there Corbin Burns, Kyle Bradish, and Grayson Rodriguez, because you only need 3, maybe 4 in the playoffs, that is as good as it's going to get, especially for a rotation. And I can't not be confident in that group. Kevin, it's just everything they've shown you says, hey, this is a group that can go win you games. So I'm not worried about that. It's still the bullpen. It's making sure that they're able to complete games after starters can't get it done.
Your starters have given you enough this season to where the offense and the bullpen, even if you have one of them on, just one of them, it just feels like in some of these games, it's like, okay, the offense can't score runs and the bullpen can't get out of certain jams. And it's like you have the starters who have done well, and then it's either the offense can't win you the game or the bullpen can't win you the game. Now, to me, let's shuck aside some of the negative here. We haven't talked at all about Gunnar in his day. We talked about the opening at bat homer, the leadoff homer. Gunnar, we've talked about him all year, has been incredible. Literally did not miss out on getting on base today. Had a couple of walks, which he was not thrilled with. As we know, Gunnar does not like to walk.
I will say, today, that first walk That first walk was pissed. That bat was fucking yeeted. Gunnar grabbed that thing. He hates walking. I'm telling you, there's going to be one situation. It'll happen one time where Gunnar like intentionally swings at a ball that's clearly a ball just because he wants to hit. Like it'll be ball 4 and he'll just wave the bat because he's like, I gotta hit. Like he's psycho. And that's how you know he's great, is he's psycho. He doesn't give a shit about his on-base percentage. He's like, let me hit this thing out of the freaking park.
Yeah, you hear the profanity that Zach has. That's what Gunnar feels whenever he
like
walks,
he just
literally.
It gets me fired up. I will say that's something I love. Gunnar hates walking because he's like, my job is to go up there and win us ball games, and when they're pitching around him, it pisses him off, and I love it. It gets me fired up, as you said.
Yeah. You saw Zach was in a mode, and he just aggression shift into aggression mode.
I love it. Oh my god, it gets me good. Ugh. That's what I'm gonna go on a rant about it. That's what literally. Yes,
I'm gonna reset. I'm gonna reset my computer again. It is freaking out on me. So you go on your rant, and I'll come back.
All right, yeah, you do that. Gunnar Henderson has that psycho, just like almost like serial killer on the baseball field vibe. He is out to do harm to that baseball every single time he steps in that box. And you can just see how much he cares. He doesn't want to walk because he's like, I can hit a home run. I can hit a double. But then you see him get on base, and then he steals second, gets himself in scoring position. So even when he's pissed off that he gets on base, he goes out there and makes something else happen. He goes, I gotta figure out a way. I gotta get on second. I gotta get on third. And it's that mindset of he's never satisfied. He's like, it's cool. Yeah. Okay, I got first base, but I'm trying to hit this thing 480 feet dead center. So there's my little rant for the day. Gunnar Henderson is psychotic, and it shows when he gets walked, and it gets me fired up and makes me want to give him a million-year contract, lifetime contract for Gunnar Henderson, solely because of the way that he gets pissed off while walking. Going through the comments here a little bit, just a lot of concern about the bullpen. I see. Oh, Kevin's about to be back on. So, lifetime contract.
Sorry, I was listening to your rant. I didn't want to miss it.
Yeah, no, I had to. Lifetime contract. Yeah.
Should be. When he's seeing the ball still well. I mean, if you put in a Gunnar MVP bet anywhere, you're probably feeling pretty good. I know the race is far from over, but look.
I actually was just checking that.
Were you? The odds?
Yeah, I want to see what they're at.
He's been incredible. And when Ryan did his breakdown, he was talking about how it just feels like he comes up, and we're just. And I think we both made the point with the Lamar thing, where it's like it's the same thing with Lamar, where it's like we see him like bomb leadoff homer. Oh, cool. That's just Gunnar Henderson. Like that's just what Gunnar does. Where it's all other fans in the MLB are like, oh my god, like that's insane. Gunnar has what six leadoff homers this year, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Like wow, there's a new odds-on favorite to win AL MVP. I mean, it makes sense. Aaron Judge, but yep. Yeah. I mean, how can you not right now? How can you not right now? That man's on fire. But Gunnar is third at plus 480.
Yeah, I mean, it's exactly what we were talking about. Some of these guys in slumps, right? Where like we were talking about how Aaron Judge was for his last 21 or 25 or whatever it was.
Send him down.
He's hitting a homer every game, it feels like now. Speaking of, I think there's been a lot of conversation about Cedric Mullins again. Zach has another tough day. Colton Cowser is the one who gets pinch hit for him in the 9th. Kyle Stowers does not get the start today, does not get an appearance today, which I think a lot of people were frustrated by after I think we all believe he's earned an opportunity to go out there and play. What was your shock when you saw that lineup card and it was not Kyle Stowers?
None. Wasn't shocked.
That was such a sad none.
You knew it. Like Kyle Stowers could go 4 for 4 with 4 grand slams, and he's riding the bench the next day. It's just I don't get it. I don't get it. I know why he's not in there, but what else does he have to do? What else does he have to prove, Kevin? What else does he have to do on the baseball field? Every time he gets up, he gets on base, he's producing. Start Kyle Stowers, please. Let Stowers bat.
Yeah.
I think this one puts even better. Zero shock, just pain. It was
that's exactly what it was.
I looked at it, I was like, it's like that Michael B. Jordan video where he's like, just nodding the head. Yeah, that was how I felt. It's like, yep, okay. Yeah, like there was no shock at all. I was like, checks out. Like, of course.
You would have at least thought that he would have gotten the pinch hit opportunity over Cowser. Like, Cowser's been better, but there still have been some struggles. So I would assume that, hey, you know what? Stowers has been in those situations. He has literally come up big in pinch hit situations before, more than big in big hit situations, pinch hit situations.
Mm-hmm.
It was, I don't know. It wasn't necessarily shock for me either, because you're just like, of course, like this is just kind of what happens. But I mean, what does he have to do? It's almost like the Connor Norby conversation. What does he have to do?
Poor Connor Norby and Kyle Stowers, because those two deserve everything in life. They've worked so hard to get here, and then the Orioles are just so stacked with young talent everywhere that they just can't. Like, there's nothing they can do. There's nothing you can do. It sucks.
I don't know the reason. I mean, I'd say I'd assume he gets to start tomorrow, but what do we know?
No chance. No.
What do we know?
Who do they Blue Jays have on the mound tomorrow? This is good.
I had the probables up.
It's Gausman.
Gausman, yeah. Rodriguez, Gausman tomorrow.
That's gonna be electric.
TBD. Rios gets to start, but the Orioles have 2 TBD slots. There was some worry about Bradish not being in the probables. Zach, do you share any of that?
No.
Okay. I was just asking.
No, I'm not. I think they're just being careful with him. They don't want to officially put anything out. Now, if we start getting in 2 days and it's like the day of, because Stowers, or that would be what, the 4th game? Yeah, like if we're at the 4th game and it's like, hey, Bradish is supposed to be pitching tonight. Is he pitching? Then I might be a little worried. But I think they're just, especially with him and after a tough outing, I think they're just letting him rest, do whatever he needs to do before they make a decision on when his next outing is going to be, whether it be on normal 5-day rest, maybe they push it to 6. Depends on that.
Yeah. So down on the farm update from Hoko Dad here. Norby lit off with a double, followed by a Kerstead homer today. I saw Kerstead got one out of the park today.
At this point, that's like saying, like, hey, woke up today. Like, yeah. Like, of course they did. Yeah. I think both of them just go out there and it's just like, well, here we go again. You know, it's like, shit, here we go again. They're just like, we just got to beat up on these AAA pitchers. And it's got to be somewhat fun, don't you think?
I think so.
I'm sure they
want to be up, right?
Yeah, like it's got, but at the same time, I mean, like while they're down there, it's got to be like, I'm literally hitting everything thrown at me.
Yeah. So I think let's do a little bit of Mullins talk. We can do a very brief preview of Toronto, then we'll get out of here. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
So with Mullins, you want to talk about one up, one down for a guy. Mullins is able to rob the homer or rob a play at the wall, but still struggles at the plate. Obviously is the story in the Matteo story. He's the guy who hit him on the back of the head. It's been a struggle. Have you
seen the video? Have you seen the video?
Yeah.
That was such a freak.
He wasn't looking. He wasn't looking.
Yeah, Matteo was just trying to grab his stuff in the thing, and like he didn't. That was such a freak accident.
Yeah, grab a weight or something or whatever he was trying to
get
grab.
His donut.
So of course, like, please, if anybody's saying it was,
this is also something. This also has to do with the to be decided. I think they're also waiting to see what happens with Kramer in the next. But let's appreciate that, Slugger Reds.
Yeah, but at this point, it's like it hasn't necessarily gotten totally better. Mullins has gotten robbed on some hits recently, but
So
that
many
still doesn't
times.
take away from the fact that he's not getting on base. It's a struggle. We saw him slam his bat, across the leg, right? I mean, he is exhibiting visible frustration. Everybody, is frustrated with the way Mullins is playing right now. Nobody more so than himself, obviously. What do you do with Ced at this point, Zach? Because we know, and we've said it, the Orioles are at their best when Cedric Mullins is on and playing the way that we know Cedric can, but it's just been a continued struggle bus for him for what feels like the majority of the year at this point.
Yeah. I don't know. I've reached the point with Cedric where I don't know because I want him to figure it out so badly. And you see the signs, man, like we just said, you see the signs. He's getting multiple 100-mile-an-hour plus exit velos, and it's getting caught. He probably was robbed of maybe two triples at least, maybe another double. Obviously, he had one home foul ball that was inches to the right of the foul pole. It's just, it sucks. But then how do you take him out of the outfield consistently? Because we saw him today make that Irving grab with Irving, which, by the way, does get you someone who protects you the way Cedric Mullins protects Cole Irvin's ERA, because it feels like at least once a game when Irvin's pitching, Cedric's making some sort of ridiculous play in center field. Move him down, but you're not getting a better defensive center fielder, and that's what makes it easier for me to play him. But at the same time, I don't think you can put his name in pen every single lineup right now. I don't think that's how it's going to go. The more he continues to struggle, unfortunately, it's not a situation where he can go out and just get through it. We're kind of past the, okay, battle through it. Now it's, okay, we're getting to that mid-June. We're getting to that point where, like Ryan said, you see what you have. You see how guys have been playing for a bit longer period of time and trying to see what they're going to do. And this is kind of a situation where the Orioles might have a tough decision to make. And I don't think you can put in pen Cedric starting every day. It's got to go off of who's hot, who's doing well. And if there's an opportunity to get other guys at bats that are playing well, I don't think it should be a given that Cedric starts over them.
I agree. And I think at the same time, too, it's like, we know who Mullins can be, but he is not that right now. And the Orioles are trying to win games, and you have to balance out. How do you try to get your vets on track? How do you balance the young talent you have coming in? Where do you find them opportunities? Where do you find them at bats? But Mullins has been in a situation now for the majority of the season where it just hasn't translated over. So again, I don't think this is a get rid of Mullins, he's gone. But I agree with you, Zach, where it's like, don't play him over somebody else just because he is Cedric Mullins, right? Yeah. I think we're at the point where, look, Stowers has given you some stuff recently. You're trying to win some games. You're trying to keep pace and be in that tight division battle with the Yankees. Every game counts here. We can talk about this for any sport. Obviously, football, it's more magnified because there are less games. But if the Orioles finish however many games, if they finish ahead of the Yankees, if they finish back of the Yankees, we're going to look back on a stretch maybe in the early part of June or in the middle part of August and say, man, if they could have got one or two more wins, if they could have pulled out that game, and where were some of the factors? Well, who knows what happens if Stowers plays instead of Mullins today? We're never going to know. But Mullins is a player that provides so much when he's on, but he's not on. And much like we saw with Craig Kimbrell, it's find a way to get your vets back on track. But at this point, it's like it's been such a prolonged slump. It is a what do you do situation for Mike Elias and Brandon Hutt.
Yeah, and I want to talk about this guy because I feel like he has gotten so much shit this season. But in his 13 games since returning from the injured list, Austin Hayes is batting .294 with 4 RBIs, 3 runs scored. And I mean, he's got how many doubles? 4 doubles. Let me see. What's his OPS during this time? I'm on StatMuse. Actually, he only has a .717 OPS. But Austin Hayes has been producing every single time he feels like he's up at the plate recently. And that is massive for the Orioles. When Austin Hayes can do what we know Austin Hayes can do, he was an all-star last year. At times last year in the first half, Austin Hayes was the offense. People forget Adley was struggling early last year during those tough months of May and June. Gunnar was obviously off to a slow start. And in those months, the Orioles were winning because Austin Hayes was hitting. He was the AL batting average leader for like 2.5 months. People forget about that. He was batting like 340 in June. Like we were all the way in June, and Austin Hayes was leading the league in batting or leading the AL. Obviously, this time last year, Luis Arias was flirting with 400 in the NL, and that was a whole different topic. That was unreal.
Yeah.
But Austin Hayes, man, if they get him going, and if he can get that pop back, and really start going gap to gap again, that's a guy that I'm telling you, look out, because he can. We talk about needing guys more consistency, getting guys in. Hazy's one of those guys with that kind of clutch factor where he can come up in a big moment and get something done.
Yeah. And again, you don't write anybody off when they're in a slump. We could acknowledge the struggles at the time, but Hayes was a guy. You mentioned that Zach was getting a lot of negative talk thrown his way because of how he started the season. Obviously gets injured, goes down, comes up, and we've seen him produce for them over the last couple of weeks now. So to wrap this up, what's your confidence level? This is one loss out of 160
in the Baltimore
games.
Orioles. What's my confidence level in the Baltimore Orioles? Are you asking what my confidence level?
Oh, yes. I thought you were going to take it. Yes.
10.
There you go.
They're what? The third best team in the American League? They're not playing their best ball, and they're 17 games above 500. They're 8-10 in their last, or 8-10, 8-2 in their last 10.
Yeah.
That's 800 ball. You play 800 ball for a whole 162 seasons. Wow, I just completely messed that up.
That was an experience. What just happened right there.
You play.
You want to take? All right,
for 162.
Scene. There you go.
Scene. If you play 162 games at 800 win percentage, you're going to set a lot of records. So stay the course. It's baseball. We see slumps. We see guys go on streaks where they can't stop hitting. Joe, I'll return to the streets eventually. Although I guess we did win both times I was in the streets, so maybe that's
So this is your fault. All right.
I'll take this. I'll take this one.
God, how could you? How?
I still, if you're watching this, I don't know if you are, but that was electric yesterday when you.
It was.
For
those who missed out, Zach was approached on the streets of Baltimore yesterday while we were live, and a little quick cameo, nothing too crazy, but
it was fun.
Yeah, it was. But yes,
if you ever see us out there, come to. I might just be live. Especially after
you never know if you can find a wild Zach Bollinger.
If you're walking around Fed Hill after an Orioles game and you see a guy pacing back and forth between streets, just talking on his phone to nobody, it's probably me going live. So
there you go. Yep. Orioles, they lose a tough one. Stay the course. There's obviously this is a talented team. Their record, I mean, it's not like we're talking about a 500 team here, right? They are still in the thick of it for the AL East, even if you want to talk about the 1 seed for the AL. There are some trends they have to get figured out, some players who have to get back on track, but hopefully they can get off to a hot start against the Toronto Blue Jays, which is going to be tomorrow. Yeah.
The Baltimore Orioles are 3 games back of the best record in all of baseball. They are the 4th best team record-wise in baseball. If you are hitting the panic button, you should probably not watch baseball. It's a long season.
Guess what, Zach? The season is over, so congratulations.
Yeah. That's on me, guys. That's on me.
God, get with the program, man. Come on. Where have you been? Season's over. Pack it up.
Yeah. Move on with it. It's over. They're done.
Yeah. So we will be back here tomorrow. I'm trying to see if there are any other chats that I
love how
there you go.
This is I've seen this like 4 times today. Actually, I saw one of them was said after we brought up that it's 30 games in 31 days. They're like 30 Zach and Kevin proms in 31 days.
Yeah, right. I think Matt saying bring Jorge Lopez back. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe it could happen. Anything else? An update on Ramon's foot? I don't think so, Zach.
I have not seen it. I was just looking at that through Rock Kabako stuff. I haven't seen anything.
Yeah. So we'll provide updates, or we will get updates when they are provided, and we'll see how it works out. But hopefully the Orioles get back on track tomorrow against the Blue Jays. Zach, any final thoughts? Any stories from last night?
Yeah, I'm trying to. Oh, we don't need to.
Maybe we did some after dark.
Let's just say it was like the bar was closed and I was in I had to leave out the back door because me and the bartender were having such a intense conversation on expectations for Stephon Diggs next year that it was like very, very much over the time the bar was closed. And I was still in there having some heated debates on expectations for Stephon Diggs.
God, were you doing like yards per catch expect? Like how deep did that
go? It was. And then people were downplaying Tank Dell's impact and I was just not standing it.
Well, I'll tell a quick story. Before the game yesterday, I went out to get snowballs, which, by the way, are a delicacy during the summer. And what I did not know is they have clear flavors now. So, like, I got a clear strawberry snowball, which is essentially, there's no food dye, but it tastes like the flavor. And I was like, okay, how is it? Is it really going to taste like strawberries, or is this just going to be some, knockoff? Doesn't taste. It tasted exactly like strawberry. It was very good, and now I'm on the clear snowball wave. So that's mine.
I need to clarify. I was arguing that Stephon Diggs is going to have a down year.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, I just think with all the talent around them, and how have we gotten into this? But with all the talent around in the offense for the Texans. I think he's going to be one of those older wide receivers that I'm not saying he's not going to be a great player, but like his stats and numbers, like he's not going to put up, I don't think, these 1,200-yard seasons. Like I think a good year for him is like he gets near that 1,000-yard mark, like just being a veteran.
Are we turning this into Locked On Ravens? We're just going to do a full Locked On Ravens episode. You want to record my Sunday show with me right now?
Let's go.
I'll take the recording from this and just put it on Locked On Ravens tomorrow. So, we'll actually have to go record Locked On NFL in about an hour or so. So that'll be fun. Actually, I am talking with the Texans guys today. So maybe I'll bring up Stephon Diggs and ask about expectations for you and see what they say.
Let me know. I got tell him it was a very heated argument at like 2 a.m. in Federal Hill last night. Yeah.
So Zach gets crazy in Fed Hill. Just it's proven right there. So, all right. I think that's all we got. Thank you for tuning in and getting down with all the craziness that we bring every single live show. We do every single live show here after the Orioles games, win or lose. So come celebrate or come vent like we did today about this team. I do content for them, so I have to give them some shout outs. So it's not totally not totally out of the ordinary that I do that.
Yeah.
But if you are new to the channel here on the Ryan Ripken Show, be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel. It helps us out a ton. If you want to be a channel member as well, we do that. A bunch of different things with we got emotes you can spam. All of us have one, plus Ollie, Ryan's dog, and Banksy, who is my 3-legged cat, is going to get one. I'll send the picture over to you at some point, Zach. I just keep getting into it. We also are going to get a channel member live stream going. I know I say it every time, but I think I'm really going to get on it this or next week to get that going. And then if you're a part of the Discord, you can involve in some conversations with us as well. And there are watch-alongs for the Orioles game as they go on there. So if you want to indulge with some conversation or just watch along with some of our Discord, you can do that as well. So that's all I got, Zach. I think we're done.
Tread lightly, Scott. Tread lightly.
Which, by the way, I think we are going to do some Ryan Ripken Show fantasy leagues, I believe, this year. Which are I'm
going to be winning them all. Oh, actually, great thing. Yes, Joe, if you are watching right now. Actually, just went live. Thank you, Joe. Just went live 6 minutes ago. Ryan sat down with Torrey Smith for like 10 minutes. So go over and check that out. Yeah. It was an awesome conversation. Torrey talked about how he had the worst training camp in NFL history. So go find out why that is.
Oh my God, Casey, this is so aggressive. I
don't know. Casey fight you. I feel like Casey wants.
He's talking about in fantasy football, Zach.
Yeah, but I'm talking about in real life. Okay.
I don't. Well, at first I have to get through the Oklahoma drill with Nick Moore, and then we can evaluate.
Casey, you gotta get in line, bro.
Which viewers I will do the Oklahoma drill with after that. But first I have to get through Nick Moore, and then we can evaluate if I'm going to take any other viewers on in the Oklahoma drill. But I don't know if I'm going to survive the Nick Moore one. So I do think that all right, we're gonna. So
I thought you probably will, Joe. You probably will.
Well, apparently Casey's finishing first, and everybody else is finishing. Oh my God, we're getting off the rails.
This is getting out of control.
The Torrey Smith interview went live for channel members, I believe. So we're gonna get it out to everybody else. I think around 9 or so. So if you're a channel member, you get exclusive access to the Torrey Smith interview, and if you're not a channel member, you'll get it access a couple hours later. So
no, it's up.
Oh, I don't see it. Oh, never mind. Yep, you can see it.
It's. I was gonna say it was up for channel members earlier today. It's up. Go, everyone, go.
It's a really fun interview.
Why are you still here? Get out of here.
Yeah. All right. Zach wants me to end the stream, so I'm going to end the stream. We'll talk later.
I'm telling them.
You just want our viewers. You want our viewership to drop. Okay, I see.
Yes. Go watch the Torrey Smith video.
Okay. All right.
That's what I'm telling
everybody. Go watch.
Get out of here.
Get out of here. Go.
Forget about it. Okay, yeah. I'm ending the stream right now.
Okay. Peace out, everybody. We'll see you back here tomorrow for Ryan Ripken Show. Peace.